Rapture is a new series of charcoal works I've developed over the last year, and it signifies a really shift in my work from looking, instead of the distant views of the landscape, which my work in the past was predominantly known for in large oil paintings. This work really focuses in on the minute and on the detail, right into those micro views, and it's a very up close and personal look at details from nature. So the charcoal works were produced in the studio when it was still in isolation and lockdown. That actually really enabled me to have really intense, slow, quiet time in the studio where I could focus on each work for a really long time from start to finish. So some of these drawings, and particularly the large ones, were worked on every day for maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and sometimes up to 10 hours a day, with coffee breaks and so forth in between, of course, and then often collapsing into bed at the end of the day. But I really enjoyed the process of just following the drawing through from right at the beginning till its final completion, which again was a different process for me, because in the past I've worked on multiple works at once and would sort of divide my time over a number of works over the week. But with these drawings in Rapture, each drawing was just started and worked on from start to finish. And I think that actually enabled that really intense investigation. So not only is it very observational work of the details and the micro views of whether they're plants or the vines wrapped around trees or bark, seaweed, just minute details from nature. So what I enjoyed immensely actually is that I had really slow and long time in the studio with much less interruptions. And so the large drawings, they were started very tentatively. I mean, they look, perhaps you might think that those dark areas in the charcoal happened at once, but not at all. That every piece was started really tentatively and very lightly. So they start with just very sketchy kind of markings of the composition. And then I work tonally, and probably in the slowest way possible, that I start with just putting down very basic information and then very slowly building the tone. And so that just takes layers and layers and layers. And then as I was doing that, I just got more and more engrossed in the visual language of charcoal drawing. And that just sort of takes you into that world where all you're thinking and looking about is tone, darks, lights, strength in your mark making, tentative marks, bold marks, soft marks, areas of perhaps pitch black, areas of almost the white paper, areas where it's all very subtle contrast, and areas where it's really strong and dynamic contrasts. And all of this weaves together over the 3 or 4 weeks that the drawings took. My intention is to create that sort of almost harmony and balance in the work. So you're actually weaving with all these elements of the drawing process to do that. So in a way, the way that I create work, where I'm building up lots of layers and I'm working with tentative things and strong things, that in a way also speaks of my own self and my fragilities and my strengths. And also when I look out into nature to learn from nature's fragilities and strengths. I mean, that's probably just simplifying a little bit, but that's kind of the thread that's been through my work. So yeah, I guess in these drawings it's just reiterating that the process of the charcoal drawing was just amazing to be absorbed in while I created this whole series. And I would just go from working on one drawing for say 3 or 4 weeks, maybe have a couple of days of collapse, and then bang, straight on to the next drawing. And I worked like that for, I guess, around 9-10 months, and really, really happy and very proud of this series of drawings. Another aspect to why this drawing show is so important to me is that in a way it makes a little bit of a shift and a break from my other landscape oil paintings. And part of that comes about from just, you know, trying to honour where I am right now in my life. And we've all been through lots of changes in the last couple of years, and it does, you know, in a sense, you know, we all get a little bit more introspective, and also just my age, I'm sort of shifting into different areas of my life. And I just found that I didn't quite know where I wanted to keep taking my paintings at the time, and I wanted to really just make some work that spoke really honestly to where I was in my life. And also some elements in these drawings, they're actually ideas that I've had for 10 years. So example, the drawings of the vines wrapped around the trees actually came from when I was living in Queensland in around 2010, 2011. And I was captivated by these trees and vines in the rainforest up there. And I've had those images on my computer and been moving them from folder to folder each year for, you know, 10, 12 years. But I didn't know how to, in a sense, make art with them. And then as I started making these charcoal drawings, the penny dropped. I thought, that is a way that I can replicate and really go into minute detail to sort of illustrate what I wanted to show with the vines wrapped around the trees. Some of the other work, like there's the bougainvillea works in the show, actually came from when I was living in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, for quite a while. And I developed a number of works with the bougainvillea over the years, and it still really captivates me, you know, just really looking at the light and the shadow. Again, all those elements of the strong light, the strong darks, the silhouettes, the fragile, the delicate, the more monumental, all those things come into play in those drawings. At the end of developing this series, and probably because also I got a bit exhausted from the really large drawings I'd worked on for about 8 months or so, I thought I'll just look at something a little bit smaller, perhaps, and again, you know, the seaweed from the Warrnambool beaches, you know, something that I've actually looked at and photographed for years. And again, like the Queensland works, I didn't quite know how to fit them into the sort of the work that I was making. So I was really pleased to actually just do them as sort of silhouettes, simple silhouettes, and concentrate on their shadows and the light. And you get these beautiful kind of almost lacework patterns, shadows that they cast. And there's such strong sunlight every day, created magnificent shadows of the bougainvillea, you know, on the footpaths. So the seaweed work really does speak to or connect with that earlier work I was making. The thing about my landscape paintings and this new work, the really detailed charcoal drawings, is that for me the concerns are exactly the same. And then that may not be obvious to most people at once, but I know that my work's always been concerned with, you know, the sort of the dynamics of opposites, the balance and harmony of opposites, looking at the fragility in nature, the strengths in nature, looking at light and darks and harmony, a calmness. I don't know, it's a bit hard to explain, but I see no difference actually in what the work's really about between a very distant, you know, misty landscape with a sort of mojo mood, as opposed to focusing right in on these very intimate details. With the new, and the process is also similar actually, because with the paintings, as is the same in the drawings, I start with very tentative marks, very lightly, just blocking in the work, and then very, very gradually building up layers. So whether they're layers of paint or layers of charcoal, it's putting down information and then gradually layering it and layering it and layering it. And it's only until you get about to that 3/4 mark that it really starts to speak back to you, and you go, I can see now where the finish line is almost. I find there's a place in making the artwork, whether it's a painting or a drawing, where initially you're giving all the information to the drawing or the painting, and then it gets to that point where really it starts speaking back to you, and you've got to be, you know, in a sense tuned in to reading the artwork, and it's more telling you about where to next, what you need to do next. And for me, all those combinations of working with tone or working with you know, a distant view or a close-up view or the lights or the dark, it's about getting all those elements to be balanced and harmonious so that you can just take in the whole picture as one, and it kind of draws you in, and you can go in and look at the details, or you can step right back and get that sort of different perspective in the work. In developing this series, Rapture charcoal drawings, it really intensified my love of working with charcoal. I mean, I've always loved working with charcoal, but sometimes it's, you know, been put to the side a bit while I've focused on paintings for exhibitions and so forth. So this, you know, the last 12 months of just working with charcoal, it really highlighted how much I love it. I mean, I love everything about it. I love the paper I'm using, which is a Stonehenge printmaking paper, really soft, quite heavy. I work a lot now in willow charcoal, whereas I used to in the past work in compressed charcoal. But the willow charcoal really allows for those very tentative marks and much more scope in building up detail and tones and a range of tones. I love just sitting at the chair at the easel for hours, just, you know, dab, 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 discovering almost new ways of working with the charcoal. So, you know, sometimes there's scratchy marks, sometimes they're super soft marks, sometimes they're jet black marks, sometimes they're brushed with an actual old paintbrush, sometimes they use my fingers to rub them. I love you know, at the end of the drawing when you're peeling back the masking tape, because I have the masking tape right around the edge of the drawing. And of course charcoal mess is everywhere. It goes all over the drawing board, all over the floor, which I have to put extra drop sheets down for. Obviously I'm wearing aprons and old studio clothes. Inadvertently it gets, you know, through the house a bit. There's a big clean up of the house once I finish a charcoal drawing. But peeling back the masking tape on the paper, and it reveals this absolutely crisp white line, and then that really makes the drawing pop and you can see it for the first time. Because as you're working on it for maybe 3-4 weeks, the charcoal marks and the blackness, whatever, it goes beyond the drawing and out onto the board, so it's really hard to see the definition. But peeling back that white line, it really just sets the drawing off. And I often actually take little videos while I'm peeling off the masking tape, because it's one of the best parts of the drawing.